But in that moment, my heart drops. He grabs the phone from me and instantly deletes the message. If a man has enough time to go into the bathroom, he has enough time to cheat. And it just stuck with me. And I thought, does he have enough time to cheat on me?
Something wasn't right. You could feel it, even if you couldn't explain it. For years, she was the radiant half of YouTube's golden couple. A picture of beauty, grace, and the kind of love story that influencers build empires on. But behind the camera flashes, behind the staged pranks and the perfect family photos, something was quietly breaking. Catherine Paiz had it all, or so it seemed. But what no one knew was that behind that perfectly curated life was silence. And that silence was hiding something far deeper than drama. Because this wasn't just about Austin or cheating rumors or broken trust. It was about a woman who was living in a mansion and still felt trapped. A woman loved by millions, but couldn't look at herself in the mirror. And when she finally decided to speak, she dropped a truth bomb that shook the entire internet. This isn't a story about cancel culture, a messy breakup, or a PR disaster. This is something far more powerful, a spiritual awakening, a transformation, and a kind of pain most people never speak out loud. Because when Catherine finally told her side, she didn't just break the silence. She broke the illusion. And what she revealed about Austin, about herself, and about the lie they both were living wasn't just shocking. It was liberating. She never planned to speak. For years, she kept everything inside, the confusion, the emotional weight, the quiet unraveling of her identity. Even as millions watched her smile on camera, not a single soul knew what was really happening. Not her friends, not her family, not even her own mother. Because how do you explain that your dream life has become a cage? Catherine was drowning in a silence that slowly erodes your sense of self, where every photo shoot feels like a lie.
We're married, we're business partners. What kind of woman sleeps with a married man?
She had convinced herself this was the price of fame, of protecting the image they had built together, but something inside her cracked. As the cameras kept rolling, her spirit started to wake up. A quiet voice told her, "You don't have to carry this anymore." As she started her healing journey, a soul-level excavation, and she had been internalizing it, making it her shame. "I have nothing to be ashamed of," she said. And with that sentence, the illusion shattered. So when she finally spoke out, she wasn't angry or seeking revenge. She was simply reclaiming her voice and setting the truth free. "I've been living with this lie, but the lie doesn't belong to me." And just like that, everything changed. This was a woman stepping into her power and letting the world know silence is not strength. Truth is, it didn't make sense to most people. How could you still speak with love about someone who broke you? How could you smile when saying his name? But for Catherine, love had evolved. It wasn't transactional anymore. It was something deeper, sacred. When she talks about Austin now, there's no bitterness in her voice, just softness.
No, that was my first time sharing my hardships in my marriage, in my relationship. It was my first time really getting it out there to the world, and I think that for a long time, I was in that place where I thought, this is just my, something that I'm going to keep within myself.
"I speak with love because he is me," she said. To her, those words were truth. She had come to believe that this life was a mirror, that nothing was done to her, everything was done for her, pain included. Public humiliation, heartbreak, disrespect, all of it were invitations for growth. It wasn't delusion or denial, it was detachment. The kind of detachment that comes when you finally realize that forgiveness isn't for them, it's for you. She explained it like this: we're all one. We're all reflections. When you start seeing God in everything, even in your pain, you stop asking, why did this happen to me? And you start asking, what is this trying to teach me? And what it taught her changed her life. For so long, she had been trapped in performance. The happy family, the perfect life. But when everything crumbled and the real healing began, she stopped trying to control the narrative. She let go, and in doing so, she found herself. "I see now that he took one for the team," she said. "He played the role he needed to play in my awakening." Most people would never be able to speak that kindly about someone who hurt them, but Catherine isn't most people anymore. She's a mother, a healer, an alchemist, and in her world, pain isn't the end, it's the beginning. From the outside, it looked like a dream. Mansions, luxury cars, millions of followers, a beautiful couple, raising their kids in front of the entire world like a real-life fairy tale. But behind the filtered photos and brand deals was something no one could see, a quiet unraveling. Because what Catherine was living wasn't freedom, it was a golden cage. At first it felt exciting, the lights, the attention, but slowly the line between content and reality blurred. There was no space for breakdowns, no privacy for reflection. They were filming every day, smiling every day, acting in love every day. And she did it all while silently falling apart. I was trapped, she said, not by him, not by the house, but by myself. It was the entire machine. The audience expectations, the pressure to be perfect even when she was crumbling inside. And when you're a mother, the stakes feel even higher. You keep pretending because you don't want your children to grow up in chaos. You keep smiling until you forget what it means to be real. She started looking at herself on screen and not recognizing the woman staring back. The sparkle in her eyes was gone. She had become a version of herself that existed only to survive. And the scariest part? No one noticed, because to the world, she was still goals. But inside, she was shrinking. She described watching old videos of herself and wanting to reach through the screen to hold that version of her and tell her, "It's okay. I got you now." Because no one else was coming to save her, so she saved herself. And it wasn't through revenge or public feuds, it was through something much braver, honesty. The kind that doesn't need approval, the kind that costs you everything fake, but gives you back everything real. Motherhood changes you in ways that force you to rebuild who you are. For Catherine, it was a complete rewrite of her identity. She was a mother trying to hold everything together while her world fell apart in front of millions. And the hardest part, she still had to be gracious even when her ex showed up at her house unannounced, even when the boundaries were constantly crossed. "I had to learn how to say no," she admitted. For someone who spent her life putting everyone else first, that was revolutionary. She was used to managing emotions, his, hers, the world's, but now she had her own peace to protect. That meant finally telling Austin, "This isn't your home anymore. You don't get to walk in like nothing happened." Because Catherine had learned that closure doesn't come from the other person. It comes from you choosing yourself. "I'll always care about him," she said. "Not because I want to be with him, but because he's the father of my children." It was a different kind of love now, one without romance or illusion, built on acceptance. That shift wasn't easy. There were moments she doubted herself when the guilt crept in, but then she'd remember she's not the same woman anymore. She's not the version that stays silent to keep the peace. She's a mother, a boundary, a full human being finally living for herself. And for the first time, that was enough. She wasn't looking for love, not after everything. She had already saved herself. But sometimes when you finally stop chasing the illusion, something real finds you. "He's safe," she said, almost in disbelief. Patient, honest, gentle, no flash, no fame, just presence. The kind of presence that offers peace. After years of performance, this new relationship wasn't about optics or content. It wasn't perfect, but it was true. She described him like a prayer she never dared to say out loud. "He's just a really good person," she said. This time, she wasn't falling for the projection. She was connecting from her core. She didn't know what the future would bring, and she was okay with not knowing because now she trusted herself. Her intuition, her ability to leave if something no longer felt right. That was the real transformation. Not just finding someone new, but becoming someone new. Someone who no longer confused chaos with passion. Who could tell the difference between attention and affection? And for all the years she spent pretending, now she could finally say it and mean it. "I'm happy." Not for the cameras or the comments, but for herself. That quiet, steady kind of joy was worth more than anything she ever posted online. And it started with a comment online. We all saw the light in her eyes fade over the years, and now she has her spark back. Catherine paused when she read it, because it was true. She had lost something. That spark had dimmed quietly like a candle running out of oxygen. Each moment she ignored her own needs, each time she stayed silent when her soul was screaming, that spark flickered and faded. But now, it was back. Sometimes she looks at old videos of herself, the polished, smiling version, and all she wants to do is hug that girl and whisper, "You don't have to hold it all together anymore. I've got you now." Because that version of Catherine was surviving. But this version, she's living. She's laughing again because something inside her feels light. She's glowing again, not from makeup or filters, but from truth. And the world noticed, because energy doesn't lie. People can feel when your soul is gone. And now, Catherine's soul is present. Fully, loudly, unapologetically. She's not here to prove anything. She's already enough. And when you finally believe that, the spark doesn't just come back, it becomes fire. She could have stayed quiet, lived comfortably in the illusion, kept playing the role, but Catherine chose truth. And in doing so, she let go of the influencer and stepped into something much more powerful, an alchemist. Because what is alchemy if not turning pain into purpose? She transformed it. She took the betrayal, the shame, the confusion, and turned it into clarity and strength. Not performative strength, but quiet, divine strength. Now, her legacy isn't tied to a YouTube channel or a brand deal. It's tied to awakening, to reminding women that healing is possible, that you can rebuild, that you can fall in love with yourself again. Catherine's story isn't a scandal. It's a mirror for so many people living lives that look perfect but feel empty. A reflection of how easy it is to lose your voice and how courageous it is to take it back. She doesn't have all the answers, but she has her spark, her truth, herself. The old Catherine might have influenced millions, but the new Catherine, she's transforming lives. This was never just about Austin or a breakup or a viral headline. This was about her silence, her awakening, her return. Because sometimes the most painful endings are really just beginnings in disguise. She spent years building a life that looked perfect, only to realize none of it mattered if she couldn't hear her own voice. But now she hears it. Catherine Paiz didn't come back to reclaim the spotlight. She came back to reclaim herself, and in doing so, she reminded millions that peace is louder than attention, and healing is more radical than revenge. You can lose everything, the relationship, the followers, and still rise, because the real story is not about being canceled. It's about being reborn.